Greetings and salutations. This is Imperator Vespasian and his trusty sidekick. We have the T26 as used by Finland during the early stages of the Second World War. The Finns started off the war with a number of rubbishy light tanks. They weren't particularly good tanks, mostly from Britain, and they just weren't very good. So when they managed to capture some Russian tanks, they were more than happy to push them into service. The T26 was Russia's main battle tank, although technically it's a light tank. It's a little ramshackle thing, a bit rubbish. But the Finns captured a huge amount of them and so put them to work. They became the mainstay of the Finnish tank forces for the initial part of the Second World War. Okay, it's equipped with a 45mm gun, which gives you a +4 penetration, which is the same as all the other tanks on the planet. However, the 45mm gun was actually superior in most ways to anything the Germans had. So it seriously helped the Russians against the Germans. However, against the Russians, they would be evenly matched because the Russians have the same guns. So the Finns were using the Russian weapons against the Russians. So that's quite cool. Any questions?
Yeah, how come the turret is way bigger than the actual tank itself?
Because the turrets were way bigger. The turrets are actually built for the BT-5. And they were taken off the BT-5 and put onto the T26.
Alright.
And the same turret was used for armoured cars as well. The same turret was used... The Russians just used the same turret for everything. They even put the turret on boats. River monitors, they used the same turret. 45mm turret. And I think the BT-7 may have done... Oh, did they know? It was a BT-7 didn't that carry... Yeah, no, BT-7 had the same turret, I think. Yeah.
Alright.
But there was another version of the BT that did carry the 76mm anti-tank gun, which used a different turret. I don't think they had an ammo box on the back of the turret. It was a more rounded turret.
Is the arm made out of tin cans?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the arm was made out of any bits of metal they had lying around. It wasn't a brilliantly built tank. It didn't have a huge amount of armour. It was relatively fast for the type. Unfortunately, the tracks broke constantly because the tracks had far too many working parts. There were far too many little bits and springs that were exposed to the outside, so if you just fired a pistol at the side of the tank, you could break a spring, and that's it, the tracks started to fall apart. The Finns found it really easy to take these things out, and the Russians used massive numbers of them. They'd be using like 30 tanks in a single wave, all attacking the same trench. And the Russians would lose all 30 tanks. Hence the Finns captured a lot of tanks. The Finns found it really easy to take out because once you're actually in combat, the tank isn't big enough to crush a trench. What the Russian heavy tanks did, they would drive onto a trench and then just turn around on the spot, and it would crush everyone inside it would fill the trench in. These couldn't do that. These used to fall into the trench if it was wide enough. Or they'd get stuck on the trench, and then a Finnish soldier would just climb up and fire his pistol through the slits. There's firing slits there's vision slits on the side, which you can fire a pistol through. And yeah, I mean the Russians, when they were fighting, they used to use bayonets.
I know they did.
No, the Japanese.
The Japanese.
Yeah, the Japanese had a huge bayonet, a really long bayonet, and all they would do is just shove the bayonet in the side of the tank, in the slits, and just stab everyone in the tank to death. So you can actually kill a tank with a knife. Try and explain that in bolt action rules. Try and recreate that. Oh, you've got to roll a 6 per man if we've got anti-tank grenades. No, just kill them with a bayonet. You literally kill a tank with a bayonet, with a knife. The forward vision slit also was not armoured. They didn't put armour in it. A lot of the early tanks didn't have armour. The KV vision slit, we've just done that video, had armour, but the light tanks didn't. All the German tanks did. You couldn't shoot through the vision slit of a German tank because they were all armoured. But the Russians didn't fit armour to a lot of their tanks. The later war version of this, the Russians actually did add bulletproof glass to it, but that was a lot later. Any questions? Any more?
That's it.
Well, that's a simple one. Well, we have already done the history of this tank in all the tank videos we've already done. We've already done the Russians. This is just a Finnish version of the same tank. The Finns did use these tanks offensively, occasionally, in the Winter War. By the time the war continuation came along, they were still in operation because they were still useful tanks to have. And you press anything you have into combat. But as the war went on, there wasn't really much need to keep something like this in field when they were getting tanks from the Germans, which were far superior to anything the Russians had. And the Finns didn't really like tanks anyway. They preferred self-propelled guns.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just suited their mode of warfare. Yeah, I'd say the biggest downside to this tank is it's only got one machine gun.
Yeah, but there's loads of them.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. The Japanese versions of this tank had 2 or 3 machine guns, which is brilliant. But I'm afraid the Russians didn't. And that's the biggest downside in bolt action. Plain Russians, their main battle tank only has 1 machine gun.
Yeah, but their airplanes have thousands of machine guns.
Depends which part of the war you're fighting. But yes, you're right. They did tend to over machine gun their airplanes. Right, so that's it.
So if you enjoyed this video, please do like and subscribe and comment down below what you think of the T26. That's everything from me.
And everything from him. Goodbye.
See ya.